Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Escucha. You're here with Megan.
And Abby.
And today we have a very special guest today. You want to introduce yourself?
I'm Keeyanah, and I used to go to CSULB. I just graduated in the May with my Bachelor's of Arts in Psychology.
Slay. We love an educated queen.
Yes. And you were just telling us that you're coming back for your master's, right?
Yes, the goal is to get my master's here for social work
Slay.
in the fall, so pray for me.
Yes.
You're going to do great. So today on Escucha, our topic is going to be Latinx stereotypes. Abby, do you want to elaborate on that?
As unfortunately every culture has their own form of stereotypes. The ones that I do want to focus on today are hot Cheeto girls. What we brought Keeyanah on the show for today is to specifically discuss the hot Cheeto girl trope that circulates Latina women. Specifically, does it actually circulate around Latina women, or is it a mockery of Black culture and Black women? Typically, when you think of a hot Cheeto girl, when you look one up on Google, it is a girl with a top knot bun, her edges are done, false lashes, really long acrylics. She's usually characterized as someone who's in the back of your classroom eating hot Cheetos and yelling at the teacher or something like that.
Definitely at 8 a.m.
At 8 a.m., mind you, I'm barely
Top of the morning.
Top of the morning to be acting like that and downing a giant bag of Cheetos, but that's neither here nor there.
So, Keeyanah, I guess our first question for you is, do you feel like the hot Cheeto girl aesthetic being used to categorize Latina women can be seen as a mockery of Black women?
Unfortunately, I feel like in a lot of aspects it can be, especially with like the things that go into the aesthetic. For example, the long nails and the edges. I mean, to be fair, people didn't used to do, like, people that weren't Black were not doing their edges because they didn't need to. Especially, like, growing up, I personally got made fun of for having my edges done. I remember distinctively asking my grandma not to do my edges because they were like, what are those squiggly lines on your forehead? So I think seeing that, and like I grew up around a lot of like Mexican kids and like other people of color especially, but like it was never something that was trendy, I want to say, until probably more into high school when it became like we can do more stuff like that, like get our edges done, not even get our edges done, but get our nails done super long and wear the super big hoops. But it was never done, I want to say, in a tasteful manner, in the sense of like they would get the absolute biggest hoops they could find. They're going to get their nails as absolutely long, that as long as that they can, I guess, manage. But it's never just something where it seems as though they're just appreciating the culture. It definitely feels as though they're taking something and trying to make a joke of it. Especially, I know with like a lot of cultures, when they do pull on other ethnicities and like different cultural aspects, yeah, it's definitely something where it's like, how can we make this almost like a backhanded compliment? And so it'll be like, oh, I really like your hair, but is it yours? That type of energy. So it's like, oh, I'm doing my edges, but I'm going to make super big swoops. So it's like, I'm going to cut my hair so that I have edges. It's like you're trying so hard to fit into this category that's not yours that it seems forced.
Yeah. But would you say like people who aren't Black but have curly hair, curly enough hair, where they are able to do that, there are certain exceptions to people just because of hair care in general?
And I feel like that's where it comes into like appreciation versus appropriation.
Right.
Because like with that, you need to be like, respectfully, girl, you need your hair looking like it needs some loving. And so like in that aspect, doing your edges is going to make your hair look better, make yourself look more tame, maybe even help your confidence. But when you're going out of your way to like cut your hair or change your hair texture to fit into that, to where you need to do edges, that's where it becomes an issue. But if you have the hair type where you like being able to maintain your edges is something that you I won't say should be worrying about, but something more that like is more, I guess, appropriate
For you to be worrying about.
Yeah. But I think it's also the issue when I feel like social media gets into play, because like we were saying, like with the hot Cheeto girl aesthetic and with like the Edgar cut, a lot of it stems from what we see on social media and like trying to make things a mockery in that aspect. Like I'm trying to get the views, I'm trying to be funny, I'm trying to blow up. So a lot of times it's like I understand that this is someone's culture, but I'm trying to be funny because I'm going to get the likes and I'm going to get the views.
Yeah.
You know? So I feel like in some aspects, too, people pull on other cultures and, like, almost cosplay, like we were talking about with, like, appropriation versus appreciation. If it's something where if you grew up in an area where you're, like, around these people and you grew up with them and
that's part of your community.
Yeah, like, not only is that part of your community, but it's, like, a part of your livelihood. Like, this is all you know.
Yeah.
Then that's one thing. Like, if you got your first pair of hoops shopping with your best black girlfriend or whatever, you know, that's one thing. But it's like, oh, you went on TikTok shop and you saw this influencer who's just trying to say, look how cute I am. Like, you want to look like me. And she's the hot Cheeto aesthetic, and it's the big bun and the edges, long nails, and now she has everything linked in her TikTok shop. You know, it's not feeling authentic.
Well, Abby and I have also gone into detail about people using aspects of other cultures to profit off of.
Yeah.
And I feel like with social media, especially on TikTok, because everything is so accessible. Like, you can tap on a video and pretty much see that, like, everything that influencer is wearing, from makeup to accessories to clothes. And I think that's a huge problem, I think, in our society, is that everything is just so accessible and not enough people go and do their research about it. What do you feel is the difference between putting on a persona like the hot Cheeto girl and actually being a Latina who grew up around black people that use, like, AAVE?
I feel like a big difference is going to be probably their roots and, like, where they not got the idea of this persona or, like, this image, but, like, who influenced them to want to do this. Mm-hmm. So with the appreciation, it's like you grew up in this area where you were engulfed in these people's culture. You realize, oh, like, this is how you grew up. I appreciate that. I want to experience that. Oh, I like your hoops. Oh, I want to wear hoops. You know, things like that. Mm-hmm. Or even with, like, hair care. I know growing up, because I didn't grow up around a lot of, like, black people specifically. It was a lot of, like, white people and specifically, like, Latina or Latino people. And it was definitely something where I didn't learn about, like, hair care and things like that. But I learned about the hot Cheetos and I learned about the nails and everything else. Like, the aspects that are appreciated, quote unquote, I'll say, because it feels appropriated. But I only learned about the aspects that were publicized in the sense of, like, oh, well, everyone knows about that, so we're going to do that. So now I understand that.
Yeah.
But
so just, like, surface level.
Yeah. I say definitely, like, appreciation is going to be really learning and, like, taking the time to understand where it comes from and why they do that in their culture versus, like, appropriation is just, I like that, I'm going to do that, and now I'm going to make it my own. I feel like being around people, not only in your own culture, but cultures that you're trying to learn about, makes such a huge difference because it's a personal account. It's not what you found out on Google or what you saw on TikTok. You can get a real life experience and, like, also see someone else's perspective, which I think is so big, especially in this day and age.
Yeah.
How do you feel about other cultures adopting aspects of black culture yet still not being accepted of black people?
I feel like it goes back to the backhanded comment where it's like, you want aspects of us, but you don't want us. You like my hair, but you don't think I am woman enough to have grown it out of my own head. Things like that where it's just like, they think it's cool, but they don't want to give the credit to black people because then they might feel like, oh, well, then it's not as cool, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, it takes some of the validity away because black people are supposed to be seen as less than. I feel like, not to get in, like, a tangent, but it's definitely something where, like, everything goes back to black people have always been seen as lesser than in this country.
Yeah.
So when things that we do are appreciated, why would I give appreciation to that? Because then it's going to look like, well, I like it, but it's from someone who's less than.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's not just like a black and white thing, you know? Other minority groups feel this way towards the black community, and I think it's really unfortunate. It's really unfair because, you know, the black community contributes so much in terms of, like, beauty and fashion, just for people to be like, okay, it's ours now, we're not going to give you any sort of, you know, recognition for it.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Escucha. We thank you so much for taking out time out of your schedule to listen to us this week. And thank you, Keeyanah, for joining us on a very special episode.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me, guys.
And if you guys aren't following us on YouTube and social media, go ahead and do that right now. And follow us on Spotify and tune in for next week, which would be our very last episode.
Bye, guys.
Bye.